timing, huh?
Uh-huh. Thank you.
And apparently this legislation has a slight adjustment, so we're just going to have it in print.
Yes. Ordinance 24 did change. You have a copy of that at your station in West Plaza.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to call to order the Middletown City Council meeting for Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. If we could start with a moment of meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
Ms. Nenny.
Here.
Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Muterspaw.
Here.
Mayor Condrey.
Here. This evening we have a few presentations. We're going to start with, well, let's just start with Chief Lawley. Thank you for stepping up to the plate here. He's in our acting city manager role now, and boy, he sure does dress up, huh? Don't want to just ignore that to start off. So Chief Lawley's here. We have Susan Cohen as our assistant city manager. She's going to be moving on to a new position soon, which brings me to a proclamation that we don't have on the agenda because it's a little bit of a surprise for her. So we have a proclamation for Susan, and I'm going to go up to the dais. Susan, if you want to join me, and I'll read it for you. Okay, this is a certificate of appreciation. Whereas Susan Cohen began her career with the City of Middletown in 2013 as the assistant prosecutor and was promoted to assistant law director in 2015. On January 1st, 2018, she was reclassified as general counsel for the City of Middletown and was named the administrative services director on January 1st, 2019. Boy, so much has happened since then, hasn't it? Only 2019. Whereas in November 2019, Susan Cohen was named acting city manager, and she demonstrated incredible strength and wisdom as she guided our city through the unique challenges caused by the global COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. She has served the city well as the assistant city manager since April 6, 2021. Susan's friendly, approachable style has earned her the respect and admiration of all those with whom she has worked, and the City of Middletown is grateful for her dedicated leadership. And whereas Susan Cohen's hard work and dedication have positively impacted the quality of life for residents throughout her career, and the City of Middletown is a better place for her service. Now therefore, I, Nicole Condrey, by the powers vested in me as the mayor of the City of Middletown, on behalf of the City Council, city staff, and citizens of our city, do hereby present the certificate of appreciation and extend best wishes in all her future endeavors to Susan Cohen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You want to do a photo? We should get in front of this thing, huh?
Job, Susan.
If you want to stay there, Mayor.
Probably a good idea, isn't it? So next we have a certificate of recognition for Adam Johnson. Do we have his family?
Yes.
Here? Oh, yes, there you go. You want to come on up? I'm going to hand this to you guys if you want to hold that up. We have a proclamation we'd like to read from the city to your family. Known all men by these presents that Adam Johnson has been presented with a certificate of appreciation for outstanding community service. Adam Johnson diligently served the citizens of our community as a park board member for 2 years and as park board chairman for 1 year. Mr. Johnson's experience, leadership, and local perspective were instrumental in many successful accomplishments of the park board. He courageously accepted the chairman position as a new member, showed genuine interest and participation in the Tree Commission Academy, and confidently represented Park Board at City Council meetings and shared his experience and knowledge. His efforts helped direct and strengthen our city's park system and urban forest and will continue improving every citizen's quality of life. The City of Middletown is proud to acknowledge his outstanding contributions and recognizes that because of his service, the City of Middletown is a better place to live, work, and raise families. The City of Middletown and City of Middletown Park Board extends our deepest thank you to Mr. Johnson's family for his service and contribution. Thank you very much. You want to get a photo together, and then I have a couple words I just wanted to share with you guys as well, and maybe we've got Steve wanted to say something. Did you want to come up as well? It's okay.
Yeah. Steve, if you want to get in the picture.
So I know I kind of beat you about 3 years to the punch on this one, but I also am a widow, and I know that the pain doesn't get any less over time. And it's okay that the pain doesn't get less over time. And that's a good sign, right? It means that we had we were lucky to have had these individuals in our lives. And so I'm going to give you my card and contact info, of course, and don't mean to make this in a public forum, but you can reach out to me at any time, and we're just really grateful for everything that he gave to our community, and his impact is so obvious in every way. So, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Steve, did you want to come up as well?
I just wanted to say just a couple words. Adam was one of my heroes because he was just a citizen that wanted to be involved. He was not too pleased when I nominated him to be chair of the park board, but I felt, as we accomplished last night, that just a taxpayer, a normal citizen, needed to be the chair. We didn't need a tree hugger. We didn't need someone that knew all about playground equipment and an expert in this. We needed someone that was interested in their community. And immediately Adam jumped right on. And when he got onto Tree Academy, I think it opened his eyes up to how much a tree canopy in the city means to the citizens, how much the parks mean to the citizens, and to have their home where Adam grew up and where Barb and the children live. They moved back in. It's a great love story. To have, again, just a family that's involved in Middletown. It was just a perfect setup. It absolutely broke my heart. Within 5 weeks, it made it very, very real to me just how evil COVID could be. And it absolutely put me back in my place with the seriousness and what the country had to go through and what our city had to go through. But the plaque that you have there is some local walnut that a good friend that you don't know, Jeremy Lacanis, up here, up in the gallery, he made that. He made the gavel. He engraved that just for you guys, for a little bit of remembrance. Jeremy is also part of the board. So been a big advocate that people get involved and help your community be a part of it. We need as much participation as possible. But to you guys as well, you will be remembering your father, and anything we can do to help, we're there for you. And again, we appreciate his service.
Do we have any Vietnam veterans in the crowd who'd like to come up for proclamation? Watch out, the steps are doozies. Last thing we need is Vietnam vet falling down in chambers. Not gonna be a good look for the city. Yeah. Come on around, guys.
How are you?
They can handle it, but you know, I can see the newspaper article now. So we have two of these this evening. We'll be giving one to the VFW and one to the American Legion here in Middletown. And I met with a lot of these gentlemen recently, and they brought to my attention a date that I was not even aware of, which was March 29th, and that's Vietnam Veterans Day. So we're gonna celebrate that in Middletown, and I'm gonna start it off with a proclamation here. Whereas on January 12th, 1962, United States Army pilots lifted more than 1,000 South Vietnamese service members over jungle and underbrush to capture a National Liberation Front stronghold near Saigon. Operation Chopper marked America's first combat mission against the Viet Cong and the beginning of one of our longest and most challenging wars. And whereas, through more than a decade of conflict that tested the fabric of our nation, the service of our men and women in uniform stood true. 58 years after that fateful mission, we honor the more than 3 million Americans who served. We pay tribute to those who we have laid to rest, and we affirm our dedication to showing a generation of veterans the respect and support of a grateful nation and city. Whereas the Vietnam War is a story of service members of different backgrounds, colors, and creeds who came together to complete a daunting mission. It's a story of Americans from every corner of our nation and Middletown, Ohio, who left the warmth of their families to serve a country that they loved. It's a story of patriots who braved the line of fire, who cast themselves into harm's way to save a friend, who fought hour after hour, day by day, to preserve the liberties we hold dear. From Operation Chopper to Huey. Is it Huey or Hugh? Huey. Okay, thank you. I don't want to get it wrong and everybody says, oh, what that mayor not sure doing. All right, from Operation Chopper to Huey, they won every major battle of war and upheld the highest traditions of our armed forces. And whereas 11 years of combat left their imprint on a generation. Thousands returned home bearing shrapnel and scars, missing limbs and spirits broken, and still more were burdened by the invisible wounds of post-traumatic stress, of Agent Orange, of memories that would never fade. More than 58,000 laid down their lives in service to our nation and Middletown. Now and forever, their names are etched into two faces of black granite, a lasting memorial to those who bore the conflict's greatest cost. And whereas our Middletown veterans answered our community's call and served with honor, and on March 29, 1973, the last of our troops left Vietnam. Yet in one of the war's most profound tragedies, many of these men and women came home to be shunned or neglected, to face treatment unbefitting their courage and a welcome unworthy of their example. We must never let this happen again. And whereas today we affirm one of our most fundamental obligations, to show all those who have worn the uniform of the United States Armed Forces the respect and dignity they deserve, and to honor their sacrifice by serving them as well as they served us. More than a half a century after those helicopters swept off the ground and into the annals of history, we pay tribute to the fallen, the missing, the wounded, the millions who served, and the millions who awaited their return. Our nation and the city of Middletown stand stronger for their service. And on Vietnam Veterans Day, we honor their proud legacy with our deepest gratitude. Now, therefore, I, Nicole Condry, Mayor of the City of Middletown, counties of Butler and Warren, State of Ohio, do recognize and celebrate March 29th, 2022 as Vietnam Veterans Day. Thank you, gentlemen, for your service. Do we have representatives of both here? Should I hand them to you guys and you guys figure out where to take them? We'll definitely get a photo, so I'll hand you guys both. You know where to take them, right?
Yes.
All right. If you want to come up in front of the lectern, that way we don't get this in the way. You want to
May I
stand
say
behind
something?
her?
I say something?
Absolutely.
This is for the 58,220 that gave their all. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Madam Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. You know you have an amazing community when you have multiple proclamations in one meeting, so that's an honor to have. Next up, we have our citizen comments. As a reminder, we have a 3-minute limit on our citizen comments. We have 4 this evening. The first is Jeff Payne from DMI. If you'll come up and state your name and address for the record, please. After that is Steve Lewis.
Thank you. Jeff Payne, Downtown Middletown, Inc., 1050 Central Avenue. Good evening, Mayor, Councilman, Councilpersons, and Chief, congratulations.
Thank you.
I just wanted to bring up 2 quick items. First of all, this year is the 9th annual Women's Wine and Chocolate Walk event. And just wanted to remind everyone of that. That will be on May 14th, Saturday, from noon to 6 o'clock p.m. Tickets are $45 and $60. Last Saturday, we actually had our pre-sale, and so we opened up and sold over 230 tickets. We plan to host somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 women. It's a great opportunity for our downtown businesses to be featured. I do want to remind our businesses that we will have a deadline for their sponsorships of April 15th. And one of the reasons for that is because when our visitors come, we provide them with a swag bag. And inside the swag bag is a coupon book. And that coupon book, that's the only thing that's in there. And so that coupon book is there to help them be featured with everyone else. So, and the other thing I just wanted to point out, and we really appreciate this, is because the majority of our ticket holders are people who are from outside of Middletown. In fact, something like 70% of our visitors come from outside of Middletown. And then the second item I just wanted to bring up is our Central Avenue reconstruction project. I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that our businesses on Central Avenue, particularly those between University and Verity, they are open for business, and we want you to continue to look to them and come shop there. We understand, we have the diverts, and we've been working with Scott, who has just been amazing, particularly given the magnitude of this project. We've provided some suggestions on some additional wayfinding, and I know he's working through that. We're in the process of purchasing some flags that say open, and what we'd like to do is make them available for the businesses to put them kind of on the rear of the buildings, since that's kind of where most folks will begin to see them. And then we are also going to start a new campaign, and I just talked to Misty about it briefly. It's called SOS Shop Our Stores, and so you'll be hearing more about that, and we'll be working with you on that. So thank you, and I appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you. Next, we have Steve Lewis, followed by D'Angela McKnight.
Steve Lewis, 4614 Wicklow Drive, Middletown, Ohio. Now I come to you as a taxpayer. I reassured Amy there would be no...
Can you move the microphone a little bit closer?
Sure.
Thank
I
you.
reassured Amy that there would be no photographs this time or any
I don't know if
publication.
Council's aware. The last time Mr. Lewis was here, there was a photo taken, and it ended up on a beer can at New Ales Brewing, and so I'm there. I'm on the beer can.
It was awesome. It was absolutely awesome.
I can't say it didn't contribute to the sales.
Great label, great picture. I just wanted to come down and say thank you for a very, I'm sure, kind of a tough decision that had to be made for the future of Middletown and the changing of the guard with city manager. I want to congratulate Chief Lally.
Thank you.
And reassure him that we're all behind you.
That's what I'm afraid of.
You do need to slow down a little bit going around the curb now when you're
Okay.
going by the house. But we're all here for you. I would like to say, though, we discussed this last night at Park Board, it would be a wonderful, if you might be able to visit for one meeting, all the different commissions and boards, just so they can get to see you and meet you, and you can kind of get a glimpse of what all these volunteers are doing, and with the help and trying to help the city go in the direction we'd like to see it. Then lastly, you all will be getting some information about a project that's been going on or been discussed up at the old hospital site. I would hope that all of you do some due diligence and look at it very intensely. I will certainly be back to discuss it, but just a little bit of a heads up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have D'Angela McKnight, followed by Monique Patterson.
Good evening, everyone. The reason I'm here to address you all on
Please state your name and address.
Oh, D'Angela McKnight, 720th Avenue, Middletown, Ohio.
Thank
Okay, on January the 31st, my mom called me. She had let her dog out to use the bathroom. Unfortunately, a pit bull came in our yard, attacked him, and mauled him to death. I called the police warden at between 12:30 and 1, never showed up. I called again at 4:30. They said she had left for the day. So the dispatcher said she would take the message and give it to her. Well, Officer Morgan was the one who initially answered the phone, and they saying he didn't give her the message. But anyway, gone. So the next morning, the police warden called us, and she took my information. She'll get back with us or whatever, but she didn't. She never followed up. My mom is 83 years old. This was her protector. This was her companion. We've having problems since this happened. But the problem I'm having is, I called you. You didn't come. The police department. Secondly, we showed up for court on February the 18th. We wasn't on the docket. Don't know why. Third, we haven't heard anything. We don't know what the status is. Is this a city that has for police to help citizens or not? And I would like for you all to take this, follow up, give me the answers I need to know what the city is going to do, because this was a dog that was murdered and it's not solved, and we don't have any information. And we like some information on it. And we shouldn't have to keep going through what we have to. And then when I was here on February the 18th, when they said we wasn't on the docket, I went downstairs to talk to the police chief about it. He was in a meeting. That's when I talked to Officer Morgan, and that's when I told him, well, they said you didn't give her the message. So I would like someone to give us some answer, because where we stay, 615, there's now, if they would have came when they were supposed to, they would have got the dog. Now it's a dog that's running loose, probably kill another one. In that block, there's senior citizens. One is in a wheelchair. You're putting people at risk. So we would like someone to personally contact us, follow us, and let us know what's going on, because you're not doing anything right now.
And I'm sorry to hear about your loss of your dog.
Yeah, it's affected my mother.
What's your address again?
The address is 61115. My mom is 83 years old. She had to be in hospital 3 days behind us. Blood pressure up. It's caused us financially, physically, and mentally, and we need some answers.
Last citizen comment we have is Monique Patterson. Did I say that right? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Monique Patterson. I live at 510 14th Avenue, but I'm also here to speak about the incident that happened with the dog. Once again, on January the 30th, the dog went into my mom's yard and attacked our family dog. I had reached out to the dog warden here. I'm concerned with how it was handled. It was never handled professionally. I called here. She never called me back. I finally came down here to the city building to speak with her. Now, this is what I didn't understand. She came out. Now, that was the process of her taking the police report. But when she came out, She wrote, now how professional is this? She wrote the information on her hand. Okay, so I guess that's the form for a police report. She wrote the police report on her hand, and she said, you'll have to show up in court on the 18th of January. You know, she never gave me a time. She never gave me any details. I've only been in court probably with traffic violations. I didn't know the process. I didn't know how to handle this, you know. So then I called back, and it was a very nice police dispatcher. She was able to go into the computer and tell me what time, you know, where to go. I didn't have any information. So like my sister said, we came here to court after the dispatcher told us, you know, where to go and et cetera. We weren't even on the docket. They couldn't even find the police report. So once again, my sister went down to talk to who was it, Angie? The police chief. And supposedly the assistant was going to talk to the young lady about it. And then, you know, they called me back and they said that we're going to talk to her. But that wasn't good enough for me. You know, it wasn't good enough for me, you know, to say that we're going to talk to her about it. So I just want you all to know I pay my tax dollars, and I just don't feel how it was handled. And like my sister said, this has been a financial strain. We had to pay about $3,000 for this episode, you know, and so it's just been a lot. It's been a lot. You know, my mother, she had to be hospitalized, and it hurts. You know, I don't know if anybody is into dogs, but that was my dog, and it hurts that the way that it's been handled. So you all need to know the type of staff that you're hiring. All right? Thank you.
I'm sorry for your experience. Next up, we have our council comments. We'll start with Mr. Muterspaw.
I don't have a lot, but I just want to say thank you to the Vietnam vets who came down today. That's awesome that you guys are here, and hats off to you. I mean, it's incredible. So just thank you for coming. Second, I want to say, I know she's tied up, but congrats to Susan on her new job. As tonight's her last council meeting. I worked with Susan for years in the building, and wish her the best as she moves on. I wanted to real quick say about the community and the response we're getting. The first 2 months on council, I mean, we've had so many people want to get involved, and I don't know if he's still here, but Steve Lewis mentioned just one person getting involved in what it can do for you, and you don't have to have a formal title, you don't have to work at the city building, and I think Adam is a great example of that, and I've talked to some great people. I send Jeremy, I don't know where he's at, but we had a long conversation about Historic Commission. I've learned more from them than they learned from me. So just get involved, and all it takes is a phone call or an email, but it works, and that's how city government's supposed to be. It's supposed to be run by the people. We're just here to help, and I think people need to understand that, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Last, I'm excited for Paul Lally. Paul and I go way back. I was a little bit smarter than him because I left earlier, but we have so much confidence in Paul and his ability to unite and bring it home for us. You know, he's a Middletown guy, and he's very well respected in the city. So we're just excited to have him. We're ecstatic. I know that he's happy to be here, and hopefully he'll continue to stay with us.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'll start with the Johnsons. Just so sorry for your loss. Can't imagine what you've been through, losing your dad and your husband. But this city's certainly better off for having had him on Parks Board, and it's certainly a huge loss not to have him there. So thank you for being here, and I'm glad we were able to recognize him tonight. To Susan, thanks for all your service to the city. Thank you for being that steady hand as we made the transition a couple years ago. Can't wait to see the great things you're going to do in Union Township, and appreciate our friendship and all that you've done. So best of luck. And to Paul, I don't know if you're chief manager or manager chief, or I haven't figured out what I'm going to call you yet, but thank you for stepping up and helping us out. I know you're going to do a great job, and you're exactly what this building and the city needs. So whatever you need, we are here to support you. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nini?
Thank you. In a similar tone, I would like to just recognize the family of Adam Johnson. I've stepped in on the Park Board Commission this year, and for the previous 2 meetings, the sentiment about how much he contributed to Park Board and how much he meant to the members there is something that I can't even put into words. So thank you as his family for being here to help us recognize him, and thank you for sharing him with us for the time that you did. And I'm just so sorry for your loss. I know that Jerry Lewis, who has stepped up in his position, feels the weight of that very much. So thank you. And then I would like to also recognize Susan. You were my very first point of contact as a new member of City Council, and really helped me understand so much about what we're capable of and what we're responsible for. And you have just a breadth and depth of knowledge about the city that was invaluable to me at that time. So thank you so much, and I wish you the best of luck in your continued career in city government. Thank you so much. And then to the Vietnam veterans, thank you so much for your service. My father was a Vietnam veteran, and the sacrifice that you made for our country is something that is beyond words as well. So thank you so much, and thank you for coming to the city and helping us recognize the Vietnam Veterans Day. I appreciate you all for your service. And to Chief Lawley, we're just so happy to have you here. You're a staple of our community, and someone who is born and raised Middletown, understands the tone of our community and what we're looking for and the direction that we'd like to go in. And so I'm looking forward to your steady hand as our acting city manager, and just want you to know that you have our full confidence, mine at least. So
Thank you very
thank
much.
you so much.
Mr. Farrell.
Busy week, huh? First off, thank you guys. Thank all the veterans out there. It's not an understatement, especially like my council comments last time. It's really appreciate living in a safe country, and you guys are the reason for that. Second off, Susan, I probably know you the least of anybody up here. Appreciate your time with Middletown. We didn't get that personal relationship, but I wish you all the best, and I'm sure you'll do well in your next spot. To the family of Adam Johnson, I know what it's like to lose my dad at a young age and watch my little sibling, grow up without a father. But what I can tell you all these years later is you will see the things that your dad did now, you're going to see them 10, 20, 30 years later, and that's something that can't be replaced. So I wish you guys all the best. Fourth, congratulations, chief/manager, as Tal said. You've known my grandpa for years. Both my grandpas were firemen, so you have to be somewhat of a good guy.
Yeah. Amen.
I remember when I went to run for council, you said, let's get together, let's go talk. So we went to Applebee's, and you sat down and you said, well, this is what the fire, this is what fire needs. And you went through kind of lobbying me a little bit, that kind of thing, and said, well, this is where we need to go. Well, here we are, so now that's your job. So all the irony, huh?
Be careful what you ask for.
Exactly. And last, this Friday night is one special night, which is Middletown's premier special needs prom. It's happening Friday evening at Baraka Church, 6 to 9. There's going to be 70 participants, crowned kings and queens as they dance the night away. These participants will be dressed in beautiful outfits. They will have their nails done, their hair done. I would not be able to meet that, obviously. And get their makeup done. Really excited for all the community partners that are sponsoring and in this event. And it's a powerful event. There's over 10 school districts participating in this, and I go to church at Braga, so it's something special for me. But it's we continue to give back to the community, and this is one of our favorite things that we sponsor. So looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, since I got to spend time with the proclamation recipients already, I will move on to some comments about Chief Lawley here. A friend reminded me only just a few minutes ago before the meeting that all things work together for good. And I'm really pleased that you're here with us, Chief, and you're willing to take up this position. I know I put some words together earlier, and I kind of want to say them here again, but the path to greatness, success, and happiness isn't straight. And if you're on a path to somewhere new and great, you can prepare all you want for each turn, but you're never going to fully be prepared or predict what's around the bend. And progress is a mentality, and we have to embrace challenges and see them as opportunities, hurdles as ways to make us stronger and more equipped to take on the next unknown. No great entity achieved greatness without challenges, and in many ways, I think that Mr. Palahniuk's time here in Middletown brought about a lot of long-term needed changes that brought us to where we are right now. Middletown has a lot of major opportunities, some of which directly in front of us, a lot of which are just around the next bend in our path. And I know City Council came to the decision to have Chief Lawley sitting here today from unique and different angles, certainly. I think we can't argue that part. We came to it at different paces, and each very strongly, though, united in the end, which is a really good sign for the city's future. I'm confident in Chief Lawley's leadership and his motivations, and I'm excited to take on the next steps of this path to greatness for our city. So Middletown definitely turned a corner. The sun is shining very brightly. I've already used more metaphors about fire in the last 36 hours than probably Lawley would ever care to admit or even knows. So drinking from a fire hose, hair on fire, putting out fires, they're on the list, and we're going to do them unashamedly, if that's okay with you. I also just want to comment that Chief has invited each of the council members to attend one of the senior staff meetings, and I thought that was a really great idea. You know, one of his goals is to break down the barriers between city staff and city council. We can work more unanimously, in unison, I mean. And I knew when he showed General McCraven's graduation speech, as the first thing he showed his staff, that we had a real leader. And I am really excited for what you're going to do for the city in that role. So thank you.
Thank you.
That next brings us to city manager report.
Okay. Well, before I start, let me say thank you to the Adam Johnson family. It's citizens, who step up the plate and serve that make Middletown a special place. I've been here for 60 years. I'm 24 years old. Yeah. And it's citizens like that do to make this place a special place. To the Vietnam vets, thank you guys. When I first started in the fire service, I was raised in the fire service for the first 5-7 years by Vietnam vets and Don Harden, which Harvey, you know some of these guys, my old timers in the fire service. They molded me into the fire service, into what I am today. They taught me a lot about trust and loyalty, especially, and together with that, my dad was a World War II veteran. You guys, my hats are off to you, and I thank you for your service and for your sacrifice. And finally, to Susan Cohen. Susan, I can't say enough. From, I think, about 2016 on, you've been there when I was fire chief and helped me get through the early years of my tenure as fire chief, and the last 2 days, you've just been remarkable, helpful to me, and I hate to see you go, but I wish you nothing but the best and success in the future, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. With that said, I got just one short thing to do. Oh, and thank you to council for your trust in me and your confidence in me. I think we're going to move forward and do great things together. With that said, I just got one thing to let you know, is that I pulled legislative items number 6 and 8, and essentially I pulled those to give staff more time to fully vet those requests. From the original agenda, yes, thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have the consent agenda. Ms. Gank, please present that for us this evening.
For your consideration, we have to receive and file the following board and commission minutes: the Board of Zoning Appeals from February the 2nd, 2022, and the Board of Health from February the 8th, 2022, and to receive and file an oath of office for Michelle Knight.
I move that the issues and actions set forth on the consent agenda be approved.
A second.
Ms. Gank, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
On the motion agenda item, we have to enter into a professional services contract with Local Gov Consultants LLC for assistance with the organizational communications at a cost not to exceed $39,600.
So moved.
Second?
I was wondering if it might be possible for Missy to come up and just speak about this, just because I thought I asked her a few questions about it. Lolly, is that okay if she?
Yes, absolutely.
She did such a good job explaining what this might be able to do for her, and I think it would be helpful.
Hello, Council. How are you guys?
Hi.
Good. So the local government consultants, or local gov consultants, is obviously a consulting firm. They work with local governments and mostly communications. I had a conversation with Pete earlier today to ask some questions to help me with my goals as our communications manager, and to kind of help us, help me along the way and help the city of Middletown so that we are successful in what we do. And so he answered expertly all of my questions. A lot of it is more in strategic planning and strategic communications. And so one of the biggest things that we're going to be working on is a strategic communication plan. And he's going to help me with that and developing those goals and where we need to go with that. So that's really the biggest. And he's also going to help me with just city government. You know, I come from the school system. I come from a very small school. Well, I've created a communications plan for the school. It's a little bit different than doing this for city government in a city Middletown size. So he's going to help me a little bit with that, as well as developing some things going forward. Next year we have the annual report to develop, and we'll have other pieces. It's just to help me with that. So those are really the biggest things.
Sorry, thank you. Appreciate
Absolutely. Thank you.
it. My biggest question was if she had been involved in that process because of timing, and she said she absolutely had, and she was happy to be working with them. So thank you for the explanation. Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Item B is to enter into a professional services agreement with Jacobs Engineering to conduct additional sampling to characterize a potential contamination at the former Aronka property.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Item C is to authorize the city manager to enter into a professional services contract with WSP USA to provide construction, administration, and inspection services for the Central Avenue Improvement Project.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mr. Yoder, will you be presenting legislation?
I will. So with items 6 and 8 removed, that leaves nine items on the agenda, the first 6 of which are being proposed for passage as an emergency on first readings. So before I get started, I just ask for council to waive the charter provisions pertaining thereto.
I would like to move to waive the charter provisions requiring reading on 2 separate days and to declare ordinance O 2022-21, resolution O 2022-08, ordinance O 2022-22, ordinance O 2022-23, ordinance O 2022-24, ordinance O 2022-26, and emergency measure in read one time only.
Second.
Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
All right, so first item is ordinance number O 2022-21, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with statewide Ford Lincoln for the purchase of 10 Ford Interceptor utility vehicles for the Division of Police and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Mr. Lawley, would you like to speak to this one?
If you, this was presented at the last council meeting to purchase the 10 vehicles. The police department, as we have stated in the past, that they have had trouble in the last year and a half being able to secure the purchase of vehicles. And that's why the number is 10. Normally it's a bit fewer than that. And that is the reason for going for the 10 at one time.
I had a question that might, I don't know if Burke or Finance might be able to answer, but do you know, so this was originally budgeted in 2021, right? And we couldn't spend the funds in 2021 on it. My question is if they were included in the general reserve carryover or?
We set up a depreciation fund for the cruisers. So anything we sell back goes into the depreciation fund. So we have a large sum of money in the depreciation fund to purchase new cruisers. So since we didn't buy any in 21, it would carry over to this year. So we have more than enough money to purchase the 10 cruisers. And just finding 10 cruisers was difficult enough. So we had to go out of state to find them.
Okay, sounds good. I just wanted to make sure we weren't basically spending that on capital.
No,
because
this is the depreciation fund. And then we have to also put out for the upfitting of the cruisers. We got to put those out for bid.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Chief, real quick, was that, what did you buy in 2020?
I think we had 3 cars from 19 that carried over. So we haven't had cars in a few years.
These are badly needed.
Yeah, it's extremely needed. We have cars with 130,000 miles or more on them. So we are getting it to a point where some of them are breaking down.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Gank, please call the roll.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and ask a dumb question, which is, I noticed that our ordinance and resolutions all have O starting them. Should the resolutions be R instead of O's?
That's your typo.
You are.
Okay.
It is correct in the legislation, though.
It is correct in legislation. Then I'm going to go ahead and read the R's for resolutions and the O's for ordinances.
I think it's just the one that has the problem.
Do you need a correction?
The last term's accurate.
From me?
No, this
There we
is
go.
correct in the legislation.
Yeah, so it is just the one, actually. So the second item specifically, and I'll go ahead with it, which is resolution number R, 2022-08, a resolution to provide funding to the Butler County, Ohio Land Reutilization Corporation in the form of deposit for cooperative efforts between the city and Land Bank and declaring an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Do I call you chief or do I call you Mr. Lawley? Which is more appropriate? Help
I'm
me
sorry, what's that?
out. Do I call you Chief Lawley or Mr. Lawley in this
Chief's
role?
fine, I'm used to that.
All right, we're going to go with chief.
Yeah. I'm going to defer to Susan on this one. This is one of those things where I'm just learning some things about.
I think this was presented at the last meeting, but just basically, we have participated as a city in the land bank of the Butler County Land Realization Corporation since 2012. The funding for that works by the proposing entities putting a deposit down, and effectively that money is spent down. The money that is in front of you represents approximately $50,000 worth of money that was spent on the last grant round, and then $100,000 in new deposits. They did just, being the land bank, receive access to a new grant this year for demolition of blighted properties in the city. So we anticipate they'll be doing work on the city's behalf in 2022 and 2023 with that $100,000. Just for council's reference, they do provide a separate accounting indicating the money that you're spending on deposit is on properties in Middletown. It's not spent on any other location in the county, but they keep these funds on deposit and then draw down as activity is done.
Any comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Ganku, please call the roll.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
Third item is ordinance number O 2022-22, an ordinance authorizing a contract with Water Solutions Unlimited for the purchase of sodium hexametaphosphate for use at the water treatment plant for the year 2022 and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
This is a situation where it's the purchasing of chemicals that are needed in the water treatment plant. I understand that you had some questions in regards to the contract. The problem we get into in some of these situations, and it's like the fire department, I know, when you have a contract and something is going to cost a certain amount, there are add-ons because of fuel cost, et cetera, that may make the prices go even higher. This is something that we're going to see as a city over the next several months because of increase in costs that's going to be, which causes our suppliers to increase their cost. So it's something that I know Nathan has looked at every department and basically directed us to look at some of your cost and the stuff you can buy earlier on, let's get them bought, because we could see as much as a 25% increase in some of our supplies. In this particular situation, Scott, do you want to add anything to it? It's a matter of you could, okay, go try to find another supplier, but then you better get in line if you see that cost is a little cheaper, because then the back order on that's going to be several months. And we can't run out of these chemicals.
I know one of my concerns is now bids from here on out that we have people who may, I'm not saying they'll do it, but the potential is there for someone to lowball a bid and then come back and say, oh, our prices have increased, and we awarded the bid to the lowest bidder, and now we're just, of course, it's hard for us to say no, right, because there's price increases. So I don't know if there's a way to keep that from, any measures in place that we verify. I don't know how to do that, but it's definitely a concern that came to mind when I saw.
Now, some of the contracts we have, I know we got them in the fire department, that they have a limit on how much the price can be increased. Scott, I don't want to talk for you guys on that, but on some of our larger items in the fire department that to keep from that occurring, like your large items, like the fire trucks, the ambulances, we locked in to prices earlier because we knew the increase was going to be it's like 15% increase on that ladder truck. So $1 million and 15%. That's a lot. It's even a lot for a $140,000 ambulance.
Yeah. I mean, we certainly could look at ways to, in effect, require guaranteed pricing. Now, on the vendor side, they're going to weigh some, they're going to bake in some risk with that, which could, increase the overall pricing. But at the same time, we wouldn't be coming back here to ask for additional money. So that's something we can talk about internally. In the recent past, this hasn't been a problem. We do have this in our construction contracts. We have a bid bond and then also a performance bond. But in effect, we're paying for those with the project. So we can certainly look at that for supplies and materials as we go forward.
I don't know that I have a good answer for it.
Right.
I just saw it and thought, ooh, the opportunity for that to occur where we award a bid to someone who is bid low, knowing that they're going to immediately or later increase the price.
And like I said, with construction, we have that, it's a 10% bid guarantee where if you submit your bid and then say, oops, I messed up, well, okay, I'll let you out of it, give me 10% of the contract amount, and usually that issue goes away.
So we as a city, are we then budgeting based on X plus a certain percentage for all of these bids that are coming in now, and that percentage being extra high as opposed to in the past?
Almost all of what we bid has some percentage of overage on it, or a contingency plan that says, hey, 10%, 15%. I think we're looking at what that number has to be.
Right, we may need to up that.
We may up it, but I think almost everything has that slight overage just in case, because we don't want to, these things happen occasionally, and it's just a matter of being able to deal with it to the market.
Yeah.
I also think, to your point, one of the things that's good about this contract is we're going to be dealing with somebody that we've dealt with in the past, and people with those ongoing relationships are less likely to do that. And it's also for staff and council to look at when bids come in. If you have one bid that is significantly lower than the others, you got to take a closer look and say, why is that significantly lower than the others?
Yeah, good point.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this?
I would just add that any opportunities that we have to purchase, I mean, just in purchasing, I know how difficult it's been just for a small business to get certain supplies and get them at the price that you're expecting, and I'm sure that staff is looking at that and trying to take advantage of pricing opportunities and, you know, sort of avoiding those increases and overages that result from just the changes in the economy right now, so.
Yeah, it's just like a box of latex gloves for our guys on the medic unit increased incredibly, like from $7 and some to $16 for the same box of gloves.
Buying by the box is not enough.
Yep.
Buying by the case, buying by the 3 or 5 cases at the right price, obviously, is something to take advantage of.
Yeah. We were lucky over the last year and a half because we got them through the Butler County Emergency Management Agency because of the pandemic. Well, that's over. And the getting of the gloves is what's the free gloves is past now. And we're starting to have to, 2 years.
Going down.
Nope. Right.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Skink, will you call the roll for us, please?
Mr. Muterspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Fourth item on the agenda is ordinance number O 2022-23, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing an amendment to a contract with JCI Jones Chemical, Inc. for the purchase of sodium hypochlorite and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Very similar situation here to number 3. Scott, do you have anything to add?
Any comments or questions from council? Ms. Skink, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muterspaw?
Yes.
Fifth item is ordinance number O 2022-24, an ordinance authorizing participation with Warren County Engineers Office for resurfacing approximately 950 feet of Dixie Highway that is located within the city limits as part of the Warren County 2022 resurfacing project, and approve a future purchase order with the selected paving contractor and declaring an emergency. Nope.
This one.
Did the title change as well?
It did.
And I can explain that. So actually, let me read I'll go ahead and explain it, if that's okay by you, and then I'll read the new title as well. My apologies for that. Long story short, this ordinance was modeled from the Warren County Engineers Office based off some past practices that they used with some other entities in Butler County. Senior staff looked at it on Wednesday, and it looked kind of odd, and that basically we're agreeing to participate in the Warren County paving program, in that but by doing that, we're also approving a contract whereby we'll pay an individual contractor to do the work, but without a purchase order. So it looks a little bit odd of, hey, wait a minute, why would we agree to do work with the county, but we'll pay a contract to a contractor? I worked with Warren County on that as recently as just this afternoon to streamline that to where basically the revised ordinance, and my apologies for not getting it to you until just now, conceptual, it's all the same guts. We're still doing the $60,000 worth of paving through the Warren County program. What's changed is Warren County agrees that they're going to do the program. They'll administer and hold the contract. They'll pay the contractor instead of us paying the contractor. And in turn, we'll just reimburse Warren County for those funds that it's going to lay out to the contractor. Additionally, in the legislation, which was the same as before, we're also using our permissive gas tax funds that's held with the county. We have to request those from the county. They'll come to us. We'll open up the PO and use those permissive gas tax funds to then offset the cost of the contract. It's just a streamlined way of doing it. It accomplishes the same thing as before, but it takes out the potential for an adverse audit of going, hey, wait a minute, why are we paying someone with whom we're not the contractor, nor do we have a PO open for it? So with that said, I'll go ahead and read the corrected ordinance. Yep.
Read it from there. I'm not sure which version.
All right.
I'm nervous.
And I'm going to make sure that the one, to the extent you guys want to approve it, is also the correct one. Again, my apologies for doing this last minute working with the engineer's office. But so it's ordinance number O 2022-24. It's an emergency ordinance authorizing the city's participation in the Warren County 22 resurfacing project with respect to the portion of the project occurring within the municipal boundaries of the city of Middletown and declaring an emergency. Sorry for being so long-winded on that one.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Any comments or questions on that? I think Mr. Yoder explained it pretty well there.
Yes.
Anything you wanted to add,
that.
Chief?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Ms. Gann, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Ms. Nenny,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Meterspaugh,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
So the sixth item on the agenda, once reordered, is ordinance number 2022-26, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for a small business grant with Valor Beauty LLC and declaring an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Chief, would you like to present?
This is one of the small business development grants that our economic department has stated that they want to put forward Ballard Beauty LLC to receive the grant for the business, and we're comfortable with. They have done everything to reach the requirements for the grant, and therefore moving it forward to council.
Did we add, I know during the meeting, we plan to add a paragraph in the grant, even for these ones that were coming back about being up to date on taxes. I didn't see that in this one.
It was not added in this one. Our plan is to look at all the moving parts that was talked about in the retreat in January, and all the future grants will have those stipulations in there. My understanding of it is that these grants were from January of 2021, and some of those stipulations weren't in there, and
Yeah.
that's why we moved
I just
forward.
know, I mean, I rewatched and rewatched the
Yep.
strategic planning session just to make sure what I was recalling was correct. And I know, like, 3 hours, 22 minutes, 17 seconds into Saturday's meeting, Councilmember Ninny asked if Ms. Lyons would amend these old ones that were coming back to us with the clause about the taxes, and Ms. Lyons said yes, that would be done. And so I was expecting that clause to be in this based on that communications.
Well, I think what we did was we moved forward because it has been a consistent policy decision of council that as long as they were up to date with their taxes or on a payment plan, we would move forward with them.
And for this particular business,
This-
we look in and they did not have any delinquent taxes with the city or otherwise
That is correct.
for this particular one.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was just a matter of, I'd just like to see it.
I just wanted to clarify.
But
that
yes, thank you.
This
That
one
was
that we're talking about, the staff did look into that.
And that's something that the businesses, they've already started talking to some of the businesses and making it clear what the requirements for receiving the grants are.
And did we engage the business owner after that meeting and see if they were willing to shift the funds away from inventory, as council had asked at the strategic planning session?
I don't believe so.
I can get an answer for you. I don't have that.
Well, I mean, I think Ms. Lyons would know if that was
I
done.
think we said that it was okay with these, but moving forward, we
No,
had a
it was-
preference that they wouldn't be for inventory purposes or things like that.
No, well, I only say because, like I said, I watched it over and over. The exact conversation was, we were asking, you specifically, again, had asked Ms. Lyons if she would be willing to engage this business owner specifically to see if she'd be willing to shift away from use of the funds on inventory and to something else, if there was anything else, because we all felt uncomfortable with the use on inventory, and that was the discussion that occurred. Ms. Lyons said she would follow up with the business owner. I was just wondering if that conversation had happened. It sounds like it didn't happen, so that's.
Yeah, it appears it did not.
Yeah, that's all I was asking, okay. And then can we just explain the property development fund? What is that fund specifically intended to be used for? Is there a? Property development means small business grants? Okay, interesting. That's helpful, because I thought, that doesn't seem quick, okay. Does
I
it-
apologize. These are parts
I
of
know,
the wheel
I'm
that
not trying to put you
I'm
on the
still
spot,
learning
Chief.
things on, and hopefully in 10 years I'll be able to answer it
Perfect.
better.
That's why we got a team.
You'll be 34 then?
Oh,
It's
mm,
good.
nice,
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do we have any comments from council? Yeah, my biggest concern with this one is just, I don't feel comfortable providing money for inventory purposes for a small business startup. I think it indicates that perhaps the business is undercapitalized, and I think that is too risky of an endeavor that I'm personally willing to take, but that's my own. No other comments, Ms. Skank, you please call the roll.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muterspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
No.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
The as reordered number 7 item on the agenda is ordinance number O-2022-28, an ordinance authorizing the submission of an application for federal assistance, an action plan, and a projected use of funds under Title I of the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended for program year 2022. This is the first reading.
Chief Lawley, are you planning to say anything about this? I know we had a full presentation at the last meeting.
Yeah, I don't have anything, and if Susan,
I'm happy to answer any questions, but I know we did go into a extended presentation at the last time. This is simply the annual application period for our HUD CDBG grant program.
Any comments or questions from council?
Moving on to item 8, ordinance number O-2022-29, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with Sidewinder Electric for the replacement of the city building generator. Again, a first reading.
Chief.
I'll answer any questions. This was actually presented again before, and once again, it's something that we have to do to get the city's buildings generator up to speed. You know, we're really coming into a season where storms and everything are very prevalent, and the city building essentially is the brain center of the city, and it has to be functional.
Any comments or questions?
Ninth and final thing is resolution number R 2022-09, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Middletown, counties of Butler and Warren, state of Ohio for the period ending December 31st, 2022. This pertains to the police grant fund and is a first reading.
Chief Burke, do you have anything you want to add on that?
Chief?
Unless, I mean, do you have any questions on it?
This is grant funds received. We're moving it to an account in which they can spend it.
It's essentially just a fund transfer. The funds have been, the grant has been received, and to be able to spend the grant, you have to move it into, appropriate it into a fund, and that's essentially what you have.
With that, that ends our legislation. Do we have any new business items that anyone would like to raise today?
I guess I would just share, in my roles on Planning Commission and Park Board, I've spoken with both of those groups about their interest in televising their meetings. It's something that we've had talked about previously, and that we were all tasked to take to our boards and commissions. And I'm happy to report that both of those boards and commissions approved our suggestion that those be recorded and then posted to the city's YouTube page. So I would just like to encourage everyone else and all of our other boards and commissions to consider the same, and just to start that conversation. Most of our meetings at Planning Commission is already conducted here in council chambers, so the video capability is there, and our conference room in 2C is also a great facility that's updated with all of the technology necessary to accomplish that goal. So I just wanted to report back to you guys that we had talked about that.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah.
I had a couple things I was just thought we could toss out, not that we really need to discuss, but maybe for consideration. I think the Jacobs Engineering one was one that just kind of brought to light again the RFP and RFQ processes. And my personal request or desire would be that we try to use the RFP process more than the request for proposals, that is, and instead of using a request for qualifications when we know the scope of the project. And I feel like we're using the RFQ to kind of get around maybe use of a specific vendor that we want to use when, yes, if we were a private industry, we have a little bit more opportunity to do that or decision making. But I think as stewards of our taxpaying dollars, the more we can do an RFP so that we can actually find a lowest bidder on things. I'm not saying that that's for sure what would have been a better option in that Jacobs Engineering one. It just brought to mind that I see a lot of RFQs here, and a lot of it cites the desire for staff to continue working with a vendor, which I get that, but we also have to be stewards of our taxpaying dollars. And so if we're able to do an RFP because we know the scope is defined, then I feel like we should be doing more RFPs. So that's one of my personal thoughts on that. Another one would be, I feel like our small business grants are stressing me out. Like I'm like just shaking all the time. They are really, really stressful. I feel like they've been almost dividing our city more than they have been helping. And I don't know if there's another way to go about this where we can still support small businesses, but maybe the community foundation could be some sort of an authority that can run the grant process, and perhaps payment could go through the chamber in some fashion, because I know they can't give funds to for-profit entities. But I just want to start kind of thinking outside of the box, if there's a way to do this with less stress, that still gets at the goals that we're trying to do, but doesn't put the city in a position where we're just constantly having to make these decisions. We're not really in that. That's not our role necessarily, is to choose one business over another in Middletown. We want to support all small businesses, and how do we do that in a fair fashion? I know Ms. Lyons has had a lot of really difficult conversations all across the board, and she's really trying. It's stressing me out. I know it's stressing a lot of people out. So that was my thought. If there's maybe a way, I don't know. Maybe we want to talk about it at a work session, but.
Stressed me out for the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
Just learning it,
Yeah.
learning all the moving parts. And I had to ask Chriselle a lot of questions. I asked some of you guys individually a lot of questions. So it's something I know I want to get into. I really thought I was an economic police officer for the last 24 hours. And
I also want to be clear, I'm not afraid of taking on stress. That's not the issue. It's that I just don't feel like, it doesn't feel like it's our role. The role that we're playing does not feel like the one we should be.
And I want small businesses to know I will do everything I can to assist them. And, that's what we want to do. But once again, let's do it the right way.
I think we want to be small business friendly.
Yes,
Certainly.
absolutely.
Coming from that community myself, I want small businesses to know that we want to work with you. And, at Park Board this past week, one of the gentlemen, Wes from New Ales Brew, came into that meeting and he said, I opened up here in 2020 and I didn't really get an opportunity to meet a lot of the people at the city or the people who are involved in the city, and I just want to go from board to board and introduce myself to city staff and figure out how my business can benefit from all of the resources that you all have available to you. And he mentioned some initiatives for his business that he was really looking for, and Allie from our staff had a lot of really great suggestions about how staff could help him with that. And so I think a lot of it is inviting these businesses to engage with us in so many ways that are available to them. And, we as a city, we do have, requirements and permitting and signs and all of those things. There are a lot of intricacies about opening a business or even expanding a business that a lot of small business owners don't know, and they don't know the resources that aren't, right, that they don't know are available to them. So That being said, I want them to know that we want to work with them to make sure that they are in full compliance with the city and all of that, and then also to help them in any way that we possibly can, because it is difficult. But I'm certainly open to the idea of. We spoke a lot at the strategic planning session about these small business grants and how we wanted them to be and what policies we wanted to set for the standards for the grants that we wanted to see. But I certainly invite the idea to bring in the community foundation or whatever other organizations, because there might be somebody who can do something for them that we can't. So if there's something that we can do as a group to get together and really talk about what is the process and what other resources are available, I mean, I'm certainly open to having a more expanded work session where we can invite some of those community partners
And
to be
maybe
a part of
SBA
that
as well.
conversation. Yeah, SBA. I mean, we've got the Chamber and the Visitors Bureau and DMI and so many partners that work together to promote small businesses in Middletown. I'd love to have if we're going to have a work session, to have all those people at the table and say, hey, what can we all come up with collectively that can help? It's tough.
I'll throw my 2 cents in it, and while I certainly agree that we need to do a better job of vetting these businesses, I get that, and that's what staff is for, and I have total confidence that it's going to get done with who we have in leadership. But with that being said, I've lived here my whole life, other than going to college. Middletown has a horrible reputation of being not business friendly. We have a horrible reputation of, we do, and sometimes we don't want to look at that and admit it, but we do. With that being in mind, small business is the backbone of all communities like this. If we don't help out and take care of our neighbors and the people whose kids go to school here and do what we can within reason, I think we're failing our small businesses. I'm not saying that we can't have better requirements on top of it. Also, I look at it like we were elected to do a job on council. If we pass the buck to the foundation, we're just saying we can't do our job, you do it for us. We were elected to make these decisions. And if we can't make the decisions and we pass it off to somebody else, there's 100 boards in this town. If we say, give it to DMI, give it to the foundation, we just, instead of 5 people making decisions, we just gave it to 30 people. Do you think anything's going to get done with that many people trying to make a decision? Not going to happen.
I was going to make a similar comment. And
Thank you.
We didn't always have the funds to do the small business grants. When I started, these would just be one-offs. There was no qualifying. The contracts were kind of made at that point. Is that fair, Susan? So we're not going to get out of the middle, I guess, is the message I'm sending. Maybe we would ship it off to somebody else, but then we're still going to get applications because there's still going to be the one-off. The business is looking at leaving town, but so-and-so had already distributed all their funds for the year, so now they're coming back to the city. We're always going to end up in the middle, and I agree that is what we're here to do.
Yeah, and if we can't, I get, if we have a questionable one, that's what council's here for, to say we're not going to vote for it, we are. That's what we're here for. But, I look at faces that come in this crowd, and I know some of these are small business owners, like the one we just voted on tonight, and, those are the people, these are our neighbors. And if we can help them in any way possible, and I'm not trying to dog anybody or do this, but, we'll drop $250,000 on a Hollywoodland study and don't bat an eye, but we won't give somebody a $6,000 grant without questions. And I hated to say it, but that's how I feel about it. And we have to take care of our people the best way we can. Yes, they need to be vetted, and he will vet them and make sure it's done. But I have a passion for, and you all do, for our people that are opening these businesses, the people that open the barbecue shops and the hair shops. I mean, we have to have them.
They're creating jobs.
Exactly. And that's just how I feel about it. I'll shut up now.
The success rate for small businesses is so low, and I think that's what we really, that's the biggest challenge, right? And like you said, Rodney, it's about giving the opportunity to the people that need it, and keeping the small businesses that we have with their doors open and the lights on, and that's for us to decide.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, we're here to
Getting community partners involved is that can benefit and just go above and beyond to what you know what I mean? Like, if those people are available and they have resources as well, we should point people to all resources available to them.
Yeah, and I agree with the mayor. The rules need to be followed, and the requirements have to be followed. I get that. They do. She's 100% right. I just don't want to hand that off to somebody else and say, make that decision for us. That's what we're here for. That's why we were elected, to make the tough decisions.
And on that, on that vein, I guess then, at our strategic planning session, we did ask for certain things. We had conversation, things were said that were going to be done, and they weren't. And so, we need staff to listen to council too. And so I just really ask that, we put a lot of time and effort into the comments and suggestions that we make as a council, and I want to have faith that that's how it's going to be executed, instead of having to make phone calls and ask more questions because what we agreed we wanted to do wasn't done, and now we're having to scramble and ask why. And we had a good conversation. We're getting closer to something, and I just want to make sure we follow through with that instead of having to have the conversation a lot of times over.
And I suppose maybe I remember it differently, but I'll go back. I wrote down the time that you said. I remember getting to the end and Chriselle saying, like, so what about the ones from last year? And we're like, look, if you've had the conversation, then we want to support you. So I'll go back and watch it.
I promise you, I
go back
have
and
word
watch
for word exactly what was said. So I'll go to my grave with that one, but great. Okay. Any other new business items? Okay. We have a request to move to executive session under the authority of ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment or dismissal of a public official and to discuss the investigation of complaints against a public official, and under the authority of ORC 121.22G3, conferences with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Skank, please call the roll.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Muederspaw?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
And I'd like to just say for the public record that I'm going to recuse myself from the second half of the executive sessions this evening, if everyone's aware. And after that, we will adjourn until our next meeting, which is...
Do we expect that there'll be any action taken?
I don't believe so.
Ben's shaking.
No.
I don't believe so, but it's ultimately up to council.
So we will not anticipate action. Will we come back into session to close it? Yes, we will come back into session to close it, so there's always a possibility. Great. Aside from that, our next meeting will be April 5th. April 5th. We get 3 weeks, folks. 5:30 p.m. here in council chambers.
3 learning weeks.
Until then, blue skies over Middletown.
Like every other, right? So you have a council. Good.